Welcome back to Hope's Homemade Kitchen. We're going to use some more of that leftover holiday ham today to make a ham and cheese quiche. This is a wonderful savory dish that you could have for breakfast, lunch, dinner, or even a fancy brunch. Hang on and I'll show you the ingredients that I'm using today. For the ham and cheese quiche, you'll need 4 eggs, Dijon mustard, a cup of half and half, pepper, kosher salt, parsley flakes, a couple of tablespoons of flour, leftover ham, sharp cheddar cheese shredded. I'm also going to be using some broccoli, so I'll be using a little red onion and some white onion. Today I'm using a store-bought pie crust. This is a single pie crust for a small pie shell. It's not the deep dish kind, so you just want to use the regular pie crust. Okay, so I've preheated my oven to 375 degrees. So the first thing we want to do is chop up the veggies. The recipe I have calls for 1 small shallot. I did not have any shallots, so I'm just using a little bit of onion that I had left over. This is a recipe that you can vary the ingredients as long as you keep the total amount of ingredients and volume the same, whatever your recipe calls for. I'm making a regular pie dish today, a regular size pie dish. This is not a deep dish. Okay, I'm probably not even going to use all of that, because I'm thinking that's probably more than 1 small shallot. So I will reserve some of this. It'll be perfect for an omelet. I'm going to sprinkle this in the bottom of the pie shell. And next I'm going to cut up the ham. Recipe calls for 8 ounces of ham. I've measured that out. If you don't have leftover ham, you can use bacon, you can use Canadian bacon. You could probably use even sausage if you wanted to. Or you could leave it out altogether and just have an egg and cheese quiche, which would be just fine. You can also freeze ham, which I've done, and I use it for dishes later or to season beans. Any kind of dishes that you need seasoning. I've used it for making green beans and onions. Season it with a little bit of ham, makes a perfect side dish. I don't know if you can hear the birds. I have the doors open and the birds are singing today. They know spring is coming. Okay, so I've chopped this up in relatively small pieces. I'm going to spread it over the bottom down there with the onions. That is a lot of ham. I think I'm going to save a little bit for an omelet that I'll make on another day. Okay, now I'm just going to cut up a little bit of veggies. Add some broccoli. It goes perfect. Goes perfect in a quiche. Gives it a lot of good color and flavor. Okay, I'm going to sprinkle that over the ham. Okay, that's already looking like a quiche. It's got the onions, ham, broccoli in there. I'm going to put, so this is 1 cup of sharp cheddar cheese. I'm going to sprinkle that in there, and then I'll reserve a little bit to go onto the top when we put our wet ingredients in. Now for the wet ingredients, we have 4 large eggs. 1 cup of half and half. Now I didn't have half and half, but I did have heavy cream. So I put half heavy cream and half milk, which is actually what half and half is. So you can substitute that if you don't have half and half. 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. Okay, next I'm going to add some pepper. Just a dash or 2 of kosher salt. Probably don't need much since the ham has a lot of salt in it. Now the recipe calls for fresh parsley. I didn't have any, but you can use what you have. So I'm going to put in about a teaspoon of dry parsley. And 1.5 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Okay, so that's all mixed up. We're going to pour it over the top. Let it soak down in there. That looks pretty already. I'm just going to be sprinkling, I'll just sprinkle the rest of the cheese right on top, because we want it to be cheesy. Okay, now in the oven it goes at 375 degrees. Okay, I had this in a 375 degree oven for 35 minutes, and I'm thinking that is done. It's puffy on the edges and set in the middle. The recipe called originally for 40 to 45 minutes, but maybe my oven runs a little hot and it did not need that long. So we'll let it rest for a little bit and then we'll cut into it. We're going to cut into this and give it a taste test. Beautiful center. That crust on the bottom is nice and brown. And this was not a homemade crust. This was a store-bought crust, and you can certainly make your own crust as well. Really good. Full of ham, cheese flavor, little hint of broccoli there. Delicious. I really hope you try this. This is something that will be in your breakfast or brunch lineup for a long time. Thank you so much for joining me again today on Hope's Homemade Kitchen. If you like what you saw today, please like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you next time.